Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our webinar, Looking Ahead to Summer 2021. I know that this is a little later than our usual webinars, and we're appreciative that you joined us at the end of your day. Like Nomi mentioned, my name is Clarissa Hayes, and I'm a Senior Policy Analyst here at FRAC. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe during this time. We have some really wonderful guest speakers joining us today, and we're excited for the conversation. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. If you do have any questions as we go through, feel free to use that Q&A function, and we will save time at the end for questions. So if you are familiar with summer meals, you know that planning for it is often very cyclical, and that usually during this time, schools, sponsors, and advocates are pulling together partners, thinking about menus, recruiting sites, developing outreach plans, and all those good things. This year is obviously very different as the pandemic continues to impact communities in various ways. We know across the country, many states still have schools that are hybrid or remote, and many summer enrichment programs are deciding now what their operations will look like during the summer months. So on today's webinar, we are going to hear from a state agency, a school, and a community sponsor that are all starting to think about this summer and what they are considering to make sure that it's a successful summer, even in light of the ongoing pandemic. So we are going to give an update on the waivers. We want to give you a chance to share what you are planning or what you see as challenges. We definitely know that there's a lot of unknown right now, but we wanted to start the conversation, and we will definitely have additional webinars in this summer series as we move forward and as we learn more about what the summer will look like. All right, so just a quick look at today's agenda. I kind of went over it, but I'm going to start with a very brief program overview and then talk about the waivers that are available right now. Next, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues at the Rhode Island State Department of Education. We have Steve Carey and Azaid Perrin Monteroso joining us to talk about the state agency perspective. And then from there, we're going to move on to hearing from local programs and a sponsor and a school district. So we have Jane McLucas from Cortland Public Schools in Maine, and we have Jenny Melby from the La Crosse Family YMCA in Wisconsin. And like I mentioned, we are going to save time for questions at the end, and if we don't get to all of them, we will make sure to follow up with everybody with the recording. So that is our agenda for today, and again, we are going to go ahead and dive right in. So I know that many of you are very familiar with the summer meal programs at this time, but just in case you are newer to it, we did want to start with level setting of what the program is during normal times. We do know, again, there have been many waivers and flexibilities that have been available since last March to help ensure access during the pandemic, which has definitely impacted the normal rules of the program, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But basically, in a nutshell, these programs provide free meals and snacks to children 18 and under at sites in low-income communities when school is out for the summer months. So most sites can serve up to 2 meals a day, and there is flexibility to when those can be served in the day. There are 2 program options. So when we say the summer nutrition programs, we are talking about both the summer food service program and the National School Lunch Program. And they have very similar requirements, although as you can guess, the National School Lunch Program or Seamless Summer option is only available for schools that want to operate that. And the last piece I'll mention here is that normally, in normal times, to be eligible to participate, sites do have to show that at least half of the children in the area qualify for free or reduced price meals, and that can be done through either school data or census data. So with that, we'll go ahead and talk about where we are now with the waivers. So at this time, many of the waivers, again, that were issued in March are available through June 30th, 2021. And the biggest piece of this, obviously, is that schools and community sponsors have been able to use the summer nutrition programs for this entire school year so far, and again, are available through June 30th, 2021. The other pieces of this that are really huge are that meals can be taken home or delivered instead of that normal congregate requirement, so they don't have to be consumed on site. That area eligibility threshold that I mentioned has been lowered or even taken away in many states, so many sites that were not eligible before to participate are able to right now with some of these flexibilities. And then 2 other big pieces that I know many sponsors and schools are utilizing are the ones that allow parents and guardians to pick up meals without children being present, and multiple days worth of meals to be distributed at one time. So with that, what I'll say is that I know that many of you from conversations and all that, along with us here at FRAC, are eagerly awaiting word on the expansion of these waivers through the summer months. We know that schools and sponsors need consistency and time to plan, and that's really an important part of that, especially now as we, again, look forward to summer. And we also know that it could be a very similar landscape to how it was the previous summer and this previous year, and that the waivers will be needed. So I just want to say that, last spring and through the summer, we worked very closely with many of our national partners, including the School Nutrition Association, Feeding America, Share Our Strength, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, to really advocate for these continued extensions through sign-on letters and working with state legislators. And, that is something that we continue to stress the importance of with USDA, and something that we are in talks and, keeping abreast of as we wait for this extension. So all that to say, we are hoping that these waivers get extended. I know many of you have voiced the same thing to us and to other partners, so we did want to just address this and just say that we don't have any clear information now, but we know, again, that consistency and time to plan and making sure that there's not a huge program change come July 1st is really going to be critical to ensuring continued access. So we will keep you updated as we learn more, and again, we continue to work with many of our partners to make sure that these critical waivers are extended. All right, so next slide. So before I turn it over to our speakers, I don't want to take up too much time, but I did want to just highlight a couple of things that we've been hearing and thinking about as we plan for summer 2021 with all of those unknowns in the air. The first one would be, obviously, if you are operating the program, to maintain that really close communication with your state agency. We know that last summer, as there was the change from, school time emergency feeding programs to the actual summer, some states did require like an addendum or maybe even a whole nother summer application. So just to continue to, connect with your state agency, see what they are planning, see what the trainings are looking like, and make sure that you are ready to make any changes needed to your program. And then the other thing that I wanted to flag and something that we're hearing is just this opportunity really to take a lot of the lessons learned from this last year to really inform what this summer will look like. So obviously communication and having an outreach plan is really critical. We know that lack of awareness continues to be a really big barrier for summer meals, and a lot of partners and, advocates took this last year to really hone in on different outreach campaigns and different ways of sharing information with families. So what of those can continue? And I think also starting to think, if the waivers aren't continued, like how do we make sure families know any changes that are coming down the line? So that's something I would flag. We also know that there continues to be a lot of opportunity around improving meal quality when it comes to summer meals. Obviously, there were a lot of constraints with this last year, but we know through previous summers, there's always an opportunity to make small changes like incorporating a fresh piece of produce, moving to whole grains, all of those things that make children, want to keep coming back to sites and receiving those meals. The last thing that I will mention here is just the opportunity for new partnerships that have come about from COVID around transportation or outreach or, anything that happened there that can maybe be important through the next summer. And then, again, the last thing actually that I'll mention is just the opportunity to extend meal service. We know that there's usually a drop-off after July 4th. We know that sometimes schools can't serve during the summer months because of certain things. But this could be the chance to, again, use some lessons learned and build the support that would help continued service through the entire summer, because we know that hunger is increasing, learning inequities are increasing. So any way that we can kind of build that support for those and reach families is going to be really crucial moving forward. Next slide. All right, so before I turn it over to our first speaker, I wanted to just quickly highlight some resources from FRAC that I think could be helpful. Again, knowing where we're at with kind of being in limbo with the waivers and everything, I think all of these resources could still be helpful as you start to plan. So the first one you see here is Outreach to Increase Participation in the Summer Nutrition Programs. Has a lot of great ideas for recruiting sites and getting the word out. We also have a tool called our planning calendar, which breaks out the months and talks about what you should be doing or considering depending on what time of the month it is. And then the last thing here is a guide for purchasing high-quality summer meals. So again, if you are looking to make small tweaks to your program around meal quality, this could be a really great resource just to get some new ideas. And of course, we have additional resources on our website if you are interested in checking those out. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I definitely want to leave a lot of time for our wonderful speakers to present. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our partners from the Rhode Island Department of Education, and we have Steve and Azaid. So I will turn it over to you two to kick us off.
Hi, everyone.
Steve, you may be muted. Oh, there, go ahead. Go ahead, Azaid.
Yes.
Right.
Hi, everyone.
I wasn't.
Yes, please, Steve. You go first.
I apologize. I was muted. My name is Steve Carey. I'm coordinator for child nutrition programs at the Department of Education in Rhode Island. I've been working here and with the summer food service program since 1998, and before that, 11 years in Massachusetts Department of Education. So I'm pretty familiar with the summer program. I'm a little bit removed from all the details right now, and Azaid, as my partner here, is going to fill you in on some of the exciting things that we have in store and what we've done over the last couple of years around expansion and outreach. But I just want to set the stage for you a little bit here and let you know that Rhode Island is a small but very mighty state. We have 36 public school districts, about 31 charter schools, and a myriad of private and parochial schools that participate in the National School Lunch Program during the regular school year. Typically, we have 25 or 26 summer food service program sponsors in a typical summer program. This year, we currently have 51 sponsors in the summer food service program. That includes every one of our public school districts are operating the summer program under the waivers. We found that this has been a rather exciting time, even though it's been a tough time for folks. Our school districts have found, the ones that have not participated in the summer program before, have found that some of the things that they were concerned about around summer and breakfast in the classroom, I know that's school meal programs, but breakfast in the classroom, they've learned that these things work. And we're excited to think that some of these sponsors are just doing summer because it's the best way to provide meals to kids during the school year. We'll continue to do so this summer. We had some 30 sponsors operate summer last summer under the COVID conditions that we're under and with all the waivers that we had. That said, I think that we have a lot of exciting ideas that we learned from this past summer that we're going to incorporate into our outreach and our activities this coming summer. I should let you know that we have a very small office here, but because we're a small state, we have very good connection with all of our communities and certainly all of our schools. So they all get one-on-one technical assistance when they're developing their plans for these programs. I've already talked way too much. I think what Azaid has to tell you as far as our outreach efforts, I've worked with Azaid now since 2012 at least, and she's one of the main reasons why over a 4-year period since 2012, we increased participation by over 50% in our summer program. So I'm going to let her talk from here on, and I'll interject if it seems like it's appropriate. Thanks for having us, and we're really glad to highlight what we do in Rhode Island. You're up, Azaid.
Thank you so much, Steve. It is a pleasure to be here with you today to share a little bit more of what we are doing in Rhode Island. Again, my name is Azaid Monterroso, and I work as a consultant for the Rhode Island Department of Education, managing all the outreach and engagement with our sponsors and with our community. If we can go to the next slide, please. So I know that everybody used to do summer in a different way before 2020. So I want to tell you where it is that we were before 2020 came. Like Steve mentioned, we had increased over 52% actually in 3 to 5 year period. And in 2019, eligibility changed in many communities throughout the state. And even though that we were celebrating sponsors like the one here in the slide that were doing an amazing job, we decreased like 50,000, 60,000 meals that were served. So we were trying to find new opportunities to engage individuals. We wanted to understand what was happening with families. Were they moving from one side of the state to another? Was the economy good? We had all of these questions. And then we had decided, for those that work in summer mills, you know that as soon as summer ends, you start working on the next summer. We had decided that we were going to survey our community to find out more of what the need was so that we could target our efforts, maximize our resources, and actually improve whatever it is that we needed to be doing to make sure that more children could have access to food. So if we could please go to the next slide. So at the time, we have evolved in this statewide campaign that started back in 2013 that went for the little apple that you see there to the next stage of just the graphics of the city and finally to the flyer sample that you have there. This statewide campaign started in one city, and then that effort was supported by the Rhode Island Department of Education and every single sponsor across the state. So collectively, we started to send the same message, and that is something also that we were celebrating, that we have provided all of our sponsors with all the marketing materials they needed, from feather flags to be displayed in the parks to banners so people knew that meals were being served in those locations. Lawn signs were put out there. So all kind of these marketing materials that all collectively send the same message. And like Steve mentioned, yes, we are small but mighty. And all of our partners throughout the state, more than 300 community organizations, send our flyers in hard copies, in newsletters, in addition to all the school departments. So all of this was happening before 2020 hit. If we could go please to the next slide. So then the question is, what didn't change in 2020? Because we all know that many changes occur. So just to give you a little background, Steve had this amazing idea a few years ago, more like 3, that exactly what he said, that children could eat in the schools and continue eating during the summer, and that we needed to work closely with the schools to make sure that alternative breakfast options and increase in lunch participation happen. So we worked 2018 and 2019 with 10 school districts and over 62 schools to make sure that they innovated alternative methods to make sure that children had access to food. Little we knew of what 2020 was going to bring. And like I was saying to Steve today while we were preparing for this presentation, without knowing, we were preparing our schools to be able to act under the circumstances that we currently are. So things that didn't change in 2020. We still have the same common denominator. Children and youth continue to be our constituents that we serve through this program. So whatever it takes, we needed to make sure that these children had access to food. Again, we are small but mighty. We take challenges and turn them into opportunities. So school districts improvised during the summer of 2020 and use all the alternative methods that they have learned through the last 2 years to make sure that they improve access within the schools, and they put them outside. You could see parents coming and doing the grab and go, picking up meals for X period of days to make sure that they could bring them home. And I think that that was a huge statement. Before we have been advocating with the schools about how important it is to provide food access to children. And it didn't click in some districts. You know, it was like, it's the responsibility of the family. But when 2020 came and you had parents actually driving to the schools, remember there were no public school transportation to take kids to pick up a meal and bring them back home. Now it was the parents or caregivers taking the additional step to go and grab those meals and bring them over. So really, we took challenges and transformed them into opportunities. This generated so much awareness about the Summer Meals program that we are going to see later in a slide. Through our survey, we had a massive amount of people that was new to the program in our open Summer Meal sites. Another thing that didn't change is the way in which we connect to people. So more than ever, coordinating our reach and using all media outlets made the difference in how we share information. So yes, all media school works, and all the social media platforms and technology were an ally in 2020. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this was the data that I was talking about. So the survey had many questions, and in one of these graphs, like the one to your left, you're going to see the pie chart. We had 60%, over 60% of respondents that participating on this one-on-one interview, basically, in our Summer Meal sites, say that they were new to the program. They didn't know about the program. And I want you to know that for almost 8 years, 7, 8 years, I have been personally going neighborhood by neighborhood, corner store by corner store, community partner by community partner. And to know that we have like 60% of new families coming to our Summer Meal sites, it gives us hope that we know that still we can reach more people, but we understood that more needed to be done. Another thing, the graphic to the side shows what were the means of communication that informed them about the Summer Meal site. The higher bar is the one from the school district. So definitely our partnership with the schools has been a support system to disseminate information. But then you have other things like the word of mouth and those flyers that we put in corner stores and the radio and all the print media that is being done that contributes to that participation. So this has helped inform what it is that we are going to be doing in 2021. If we can please move to the next slide. So looking ahead, again, we are going to be utilizing the responses to focus our attention and where it is that we need to work. Basically, right now, one of the things that we do is that by city and by town in our state, people from my team and myself, we sit and we search and identify all the potential new sites that could be added. We look at eligibility. If there is no waivers, we have to look at the eligibility of the area. We sometimes have to travel physically to the place and see, okay, if this area is not eligible, a few steps forward, there is a library that potentially could be a Summer Meal site, or there is a park that actually is eligible, but we need to find an organization that could actually go and serve those meals. So we work on combing the state completely to find those opportunities. And that way we also maximize the resources that we have to make sure that we get to as many people as possible. One thing that we do very well is we coordinate with all kinds of community-based organizations, from faith-based to youth services, even to seniors, even Meals on Wheels. Just think of the fact that some caregivers are our older adults that now they have to take care of their grandchildren, so the parents have to go to work. So you have these intergenerational layers of individuals that you can actually outreach to and inform them about the program. One thing that is very helpful and that is also part of our plan is that we have many partners that they do newsletters, right? So they insert in those electronic newsletters or in the print newsletters information about the program. You know that frequency and repetition really put in your head the concept that you're looking for. So the message that you're looking for to convey, especially in the radio with us, we use all the gain media that we can, but we also pay for media in other languages, and that helps us get to those families that usually don't receive the information through other outlets. So we use like local radio stations that do it in Spanish and English. We also use print newspapers in 4 different Asian languages and also in Spanish to make sure information gets to the people that need it the most. And we do something that I call a very aggressive direct outreach, which is going to every single neighborhood where you have corner stores and where you know small families are going to come and shop. We introduce ourselves, talk to the owners, ask permission, and we put our posters and flyers in every single main street or anywhere where there is an opportunity in every city and town in this state. Another thing that we do through the list that I mentioned before, how it is that we go through cities and towns, we reach out to those organizations and ask them whether or not they would like to be a sponsor or to sponsor a site. If they have any, summer camps happening, whether or not they would like to provide these free meals through the summer camp, depending on what the eligibility is, again, if there's no waivers in place. So we are very excited to have been able to come this far. 2020 left many lessons for all of us. And it also shows that despite the challenges and differences, we all together could make a difference. And our schools rock. Like when I look at this program, I realize I'm only a grain of sand in the middle of the ocean because the amount of people that work behind the lines to make this happen, from the people preparing the meals to those that do the administration, the accountability, the people in Steve's office, then us doing the work in the street, all of that work ends in the hand of that person grabbing the meal, and that is completely true. So how it is that we also empower our staff through all the sponsors to provide high-quality customer service, to make sure those families come back, again, has been a fight that we have been fighting for many years, and we will continue to do so to make sure that we reach as many families as possible. And if we could please go to the next slide. And I was telling Steve was asking me how come I have pictures of my kids and I don't have any of his in here. And I was saying to him, this is my third child, and now she's 7 this year. This picture was taken a few years back, and it was her actually drinking milk from one of the summer meals that she received in one of the sites. And I say to Steve that for me it's a reminder to have that picture of who it is that we have to serve and how it is that summer meals can impact and change the life of so many people. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, and we don't know who actually needs that additional meal in their household. So in my end, it's my job to make sure that every single family knows that meals can be waiting for their kids if they need it during the summer. If we can go please to the next slide. Steve, I keep talking and now I didn't let you talk at all. Is there anything that you want to say?
It's okay. I just want to add to what Zaid said, and the last comment I have is some of the unsung heroes in all of this, maybe they get some kudos, but the school food service professionals across the country, not just Rhode Island, that have come to the plate and served our kids, they should be commended. So they're the ones that are getting this done across the country. So thanks for letting us present.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Zaid and Steve. I think that survey that you did is really eye-opening, the fact that 64% of families did not even know about summer meals until, the COVID pandemic. And, whatever the summer looks like, hopefully waivers extended. But I think there's definitely some opportunity to leverage that and build upon that awareness now that is a more familiar program. So that's really great. Thank you so much for that important perspective. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next speaker. So we are going to hear from Jane McLucas, who is the Food Service Director at Portland Public Schools in Maine, and she is going to walk us through, as a school district, what she saw over the last year and what she is starting to think about for this upcoming summer. So Jane, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carissa, and welcome everybody. It's so nice to hear from other people, and we have so many people on today. It's wonderful to know that so many of us are thinking about summer meals. Next slide. So I'm from Portland Public Schools. We are the largest school district in Maine. We have about 6,500 students, and we have 16 schools, 2 of those being islands. We're a very diverse district. We have numerous ethnic communities, but we also are very diverse in our free and reduced percentages. So we have schools that are low free and reduced at 16%, and we go up to 96%. 4 of our elementary schools, we operate as CEP. So we run the gamut here with diversity in our district. Currently, we're running a hybrid program for our schools, and luckily we've been able to do that through the course of this pandemic. So we started hybrid in September when we opened, and we've been lucky enough to be able to stay open. We haven't had to go all remote at all. So we're running a program that's hybrid 2 days a week, so Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, all remote on Wednesday. This has given us the opportunity to operate with classroom feeding only, and that was something new and different for my staff as well as the school staff. But we've all come together and been able to make that happen for the students here in Portland. Next slide, please. So in summer of 2019, this was our map that we distribute to our students as part of the information that goes home before the end of the school year. And this was our last typical year, right? So we had 16 sites. They ranged from summer school sites to rec programming sites, handful of community sites, and we had been working hard on enrichment in our sites. When a few years back, we had tried to do spike events. While they were really successful and had a great attendance at those spike events, we didn't see the participation in our site programs build. So we had started working on enrichment at each of the individual sites and doing those on a more regular basis to encourage students to come to those sites. In 2019, we did about 45,000 summer meals across those 16 sites. Next slide. So then here comes 2020 down the pike, and everything changed for all of us, right? So we had no summer school sites. Our recreational sites, community partner sites were all very, very small, and we really didn't see the kids because they were staying home. So lo and behold, to our rescue, here comes the transportation department. We were really lucky to be able to work with them. So we opened 12 open sites over the summer, and we had 8 bus runs. So those 8 buses came and saw us, picked up meals and delivered those. We did home delivery for our summer staff, and we did about 400 students got a home delivery on a daily basis. So in July and August of last year, we did about 70,000 meals for last year. And then we roll right into summer of 2021 on the next slide, and we have no idea what it's going to come. We have lots and lots of questions and not a lot of answers. A lot of things up in the school, up in the air. We don't know if the waivers will be extended. We don't know if we're going to be able to send meals home. We don't know if we're going to be vaccinated. We don't know if we're going to have summer school or summer programming. And how do we plan for all this? And I have no idea. So, but I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking about now, and we're going to move on from there. So if you can go to the next slide. These are some of the meals that we've been doing over the summer, over the school year, really. Really trying to maintain the standards of the National School Lunch Program, being able to offer fresh fruit and vegetables with all of our meals as these have gone home. I really tried to think of these meals as an avenue to parents so many times we can say we're making these great meals in the schools, but parents don't ever see them. So I really try to encourage my staff to really think about this as an avenue to the parents, and for the parents to be able to see what the kids are being offered in school and the quality of meals that we've been serving in our school district. Because we send home meals every day, we tend to deconstruct our meals. So the top left-hand meal is actually a chicken Caesar salad with all the parts, and the kids get to take those home and throw them all together themselves. And they have told us that they really like being able to do that. And parents have been able to tell us that they really like that the kids can take care of themselves when they get a meal looking like this. We are all cold and unitized, but we really try to make sure that they're attractive, colorful, fresh, and flavorful. Next slide, please. So I'm really looking at my kids and where they're going to be. I'm looking at these kind of as buckets. We think we're going to have a summer school program. We know that we're going to have partnership programs, but we just don't know in what kind of pattern that they're going to work in. We work in our housing sites across the city as well. And then we have our community sites, our parks, playgrounds, and pools. So we know that these kids are going to be somewhere. So assuming that they all stay in Portland, I am hoping that I'll see them in one of these areas. So I know if our summer school is going to be very big this year, then we will not see those kids at the community sites. Or if summer school is going to be light this year, then maybe our community sites will be heavy. So it's really about thinking about hoping that the kids are all coming and figuring out where they're going to be and making sure that we have sites in all those areas to take advantage, so those kids can take advantage of the sites. Next slide, please. One of the big parts of what we were able to do over the course of this year was work with our partner organizations, and they've made a huge difference in what we do each summer. We've been able to partner with different organizations for our enrichment in our summer programs, and they really came through for us this year when the kids weren't coming on site. They're used to seeing these kids on site and doing these science programs with these kids and being able to talk to them. But we didn't know what was going to happen. But they really came through. These people really packaged up things in Ziploc bags so that we were able to hold them out, hand them out to the different families. There was these interactive sheets and science projects that they got to take home and make airplanes with. EcoMaine, who made great magnets to help them with what they had at home and what was coming home. We had some wonderful partners that stepped up to the plate. Some of the new ones that we had this year were also a couple of camps that really didn't have kids coming or didn't have kids coming in the numbers that they normally used to see. So they reached out to us and offered to make some of these activity packages for us. So those partnerships that were new were a great experience for us, and they really came through and sent things home for the kids so that they could have fun and enjoy their lunch and do something different. They really came through for us. Next slide, please. A couple of other additional partnerships that we really want to think about is those grant partnerships. We're really lucky in the state of Maine. We have Full Plates, Full Potential. They're kind of our main version of Share Our Strength. So we're able to get grant money via them. Our credit unions are really strong in giving us grants. And we have a locker project here who run all of our food pantries in each of our schools. So they're active in the summer, and they send additional food home with kids. So it was about a weekly distribution of additional grocery items that they were able to receive at our sites. So that's about where I'm at. Next slide, please. Don't forget to talk about it. share that information. Like Aziz said, you know, the schools are the avenue for information, and we're able to get that information out to our families. And they can help us share that information through our social media and our partnerships and our PTOs. And they're the ones that are able to help us get the news out and let people know where we are and what our hours are so that they're able to take part in this meal service. Next slide. If anybody has any other information they want from us, they can reach out and stay connected. Follow us on Facebook, look us up online at our website. Thank you very much for being here today, and I hope I've given some people some great ideas to take with them into this summer programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, I know you kind of touched on when your list of questions for this summer. There definitely, I know a lot of schools and sponsors are dealing with that same thing. So it's good to just start the conversation and, you know, start to brainstorm what it could look like. And I know you've listed a lot of your partners that have helped with activities over the summer. And I think that's a really important piece of this because, you know, during normal summertime, like that is having the programs and having that socialization is such a key part of it. And after this is all over, kids are going to struggle, just with that piece of it, I think, and just the learning inequities that are coming out of COVID. So I think that is so important to highlight and some really great ideas there. Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and move on to our last but not least speaker. I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Melby. She is the Director of Youth Development at the La Crosse Family YMCA. She's going to speak for a little bit, and then we will be happy to open it up for questions. So, Jenny, I will turn it over to you. And I think you might need to unmute yourself, Jenny. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is great to hear from everybody and just be able to share a little bit about how we partner with agencies and with our community. And so I just wanted to share a little bit with you about what we did. Our schools all shut down at the end of March and were closed through the end of the school year, as did all of our facilities. And so we were running emergency childcare, and so we were doing emergency childcare within one of our Y buildings. And then in the summer, we did open up and were able to offer full-day summer programs that take place at the elementary schools. So a natural fit for us when this all happened was to reach out to the school district, which we've been partnering with for years. And they traditionally provide the breakfast and lunch, through the summer food service program. And then our Y at some complementing locations, we have a library location, we have our own Y building. We would serve suppers. We also serve a supper at our local Boys and Girls Club locations. And so even though some of these organizations were closed, we were able to keep them as sites. And you can see in the very top right hand, we were able to secure a vehicle, a donated vehicle, and we did some mobile food routes. So we were able to try and keep the locations that people were familiar with us, namely our teen center. We had a library site, our Boys and Girls Club location. So we just picked up and started doing those more as mobile pickup sites out in the community. The beautiful thing was we partnered with the school district, so the school district became our vendor. And so we would buy the meals from the school district, we'd pick them up at the school district building, and we'd distribute them out. And so we were the sponsor and the school district was the vendor. And it was a really great partnership to continue to get more food out in the communities at more locations. In our community, our school district is very strong, much like the school districts you've heard on the call today, and they definitely reached out to us. We reached out to them, and we really wanted to complement each other because they went into immediate mobile route mode with their buses and did mobile routes in the community as well for breakfast and lunch meals. And so we worked together to pick our sites. And then as summer approached, we had been working alongside the Salvation Army, and the Salvation Army had their own program where they had food donated and they were making meal bags and they were going out to mobile locations. And through the three of us connecting, the Salvation Army, the Y, and the school district, we were able to start being more efficient with our resources. And so we started to identify where could we serve suppers in our community through our summer food service program, but then where could we serve breakfast and lunch through reimbursed meals. And with the waivers, it gave us more flexibility. And then the Salvation Army said, well, instead of us trying to compete and do food, why don't we use our vans and our volunteers to help deliver the food? So that was really a great coming together of our three organizations to pull together to use each other's resources rather than try and compete against each other. And so that is just one thing that's going to be happening again this summer. And so actually next week we have a meeting set up as we look for 2021. We have a meeting set up between all of our agencies, which also includes the city, the Boys and Girls Club, the school district, our Salvation Army, for all of us to get together and talk about where are the kids, what programs are we running for 2021. And with that, you know, we don't know what's going to happen after June, but one thing that we do know is that we can try to build it sustainable. So we want to for sure make sure we're impacting those locations with reimbursable meals that qualify for the summer food service program. And then we have partnerships with a food bank in our community where we can continue to make meals. If the waivers go away in June, we can still work on making food pantry bags, working as sites out of our YMCA where we can get mobile, we can do mobile meals, maybe that don't qualify through the summer food service program, to some of those areas where we know kids have been eating food and taking advantage even with the waivers if they're listed and they're not qualifying areas. So we just know that we need to really look at the school boundaries and where things line up and what parks and areas we can get out into the community. So yeah, I think it's really just, you know, my tip is good communication and pulling partners together and making sure we're really talking about where kids are. I've been having some one-on-one community meetings with community leaders and stakeholders about what are you seeing with the groups of kids? How can we get food to the kids that you work with? And so we have community health workers in our community. We have some local neighborhood social workers where we're really identifying families and pockets of our community where we need to get meals. And then we bring that back to this group and we say, who can do what where so that we're maximizing our efforts. Yeah, I think that's all I got, Clarissa.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. No, that's wonderful. I really like your point about, you know, now is the time, like years past, to really be connecting with partners and, you know, making those plans if things are to change. Like you mentioned, you know, supplementing your summer food programs with the food bank partnership, which I think is really such a good idea. So lots of great information there. Thank you so much for that perspective. All right. Well, we have around 9 minutes for questions. I actually don't see too many in the chat box yet. We did have questions around whether we will share out the recording and the slides, which we definitely will in the next couple days. We'll also share out our waiver tracker and our COVID-19 page in case you are interested in seeing more of those resources that we have. So I will give it another couple minutes, and we can just actually go on to the next slide. I'll give a couple more announcements as I'm waiting for any last-minute questions to come in. But I did want to flag that we will be holding our annual anti-hunger policy conference, which we hold in partnership with Feeding America next month. It will be virtual, surprise, surprise, but definitely feel free to check this out. We do have scholarships available, and if you need more information about that, you can find that on the website, or you can feel free to reach out to me. But it's going to be a really great event. We have 3 sessions that are going to be focusing on child nutrition and summer and after school and school meals, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we have some good news on the waivers by then, but it will be a great event and we're really looking forward to it. And the next thing that I wanted to flag, if you are also someone who is working on pandemic EBT, which is the program that provides benefits to families with children who aren't in school right now and who qualify. We do have some exciting news that more states are being approved for this second round of pandemic EBT. So we did want to, if this is of interest to you, we have a lot of great information on pandemic EBT on our website. And on the next slide, if you are a group or a school that does any kind of communication with families or want some sample graphics to use, we have developed a lot of those, which you can just take and plug in your information. But we definitely want to continue to share the word about this great program and really feel like it's a good complement to all the work that's being done with summer and after school and school meals. So I wanted to just quickly touch on that. All right. Well, I actually don't see any questions, which I think just means that we did a really good job, or everyone else is just confused about summer planning. But I would just say that, you know, everybody here in the line, we're here for you if you have any questions. And just similarly, if you're starting to think about summer planning and want to chat with us about that, and feel free to reach out to us. I would just say, too, that we are continuing this as a series. And as soon as we learn more about waivers, or if there's an opportunity on the national level for advocacy, we did some really successful sign-on letters earlier in the summer, and we will make sure to share that with all of you because I know everyone is, eagerly awaiting those extensions and what it could mean for continued access. So with that, I will go ahead and close out today's webinar. I know it's the end of the day for many, so I just want to quickly thank Steve, Azaid, Jane, and Jenny for hopping on and sharing your expertise. I know many of you are in the middle of snowstorms and it's snowing where you're at. So really appreciate it and appreciate everyone else taking time out of your day to join us. So we will be in touch with the recordings, but again, if anything else comes up, feel free to reach out to us. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Clarissa.